what is your favorite song?
I'd have to say right now, The Search by NF.
I need you to rate this song out of 10.
Where'd the beat go?
I'll give that a 6.
Okay, perfect. And what's your favorite song?
Oakland by Childish Gambino.
Foot on the gas, I'm just trying to pass all the red lights.
7. Ooh, okay. Now what's your favorite song? Weird Fishes by Radiohead.
I'd be crazy not to fall.
I'd give it like a 6 maybe.
Okay, and then what's your favorite song?
The Bolter by Taylor Swift.
Started with a kiss, oh we must stop meeting like this, but it always ends.
I'll guess maybe it will be like a 7. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Okay, then what's your favorite song?
Morcito Corazón of Pedro Infante.
Okay, I like it. Solid like 8.5.
Okay, then what's your favorite song?
Cherry Juice. I don't know how to say it. Gale Nut.
Welcome to this episode of Take a Leap. Join us as we talk to young people who are using their faith to change the world.
Our religion and our faith is like a tree. And the way we live our religion and our faith is shown through the fruits of our tree. And so I think that was really cool because she also mentioned how when we're this tree and our faith is this tree, sometimes we can offer like shade to people who need that support and comfort.
Yeah, that was really cool. I really liked that she talked about how she's Muslim, but she talked about how she has Hindu friends and how like they're more similar like than she would think and then that other people think, and how we just all need to be like more of a community with each other.
Yeah, so hopefully, what else? We've never done this. What else should we say for that?
Just say...
That's all you, bro.
But yeah, it was a really great episode, so we hope you guys enjoy it.
The question for today is, if you could be any fictional character, what would it be and why?
I would love to exist in the K-pop Demon Hunters universe because I've been so into that movie. I love Zoe's character. So if I could exist as a fictional character, it would be Zoe from K-pop Demon Hunters.
That's a good one.
I still need to see it. I've heard the hype. I know it's like a huge thing, so this is my sign to see it.
Yes, the songs are so good.
Okay, sweet.
What would you be, Naftali?
Okay, I think it'd be Avatar from Avatar Last Airbender. Just walking between campus, I'm like, I want Appa to just take me to all my classes. So try to beat that.
That's a good one. I said Moana at first, but I might have to change it to Avatar. That's a good one.
Okay, sweet. Awesome. Well, I'm glad we all have a little fictional fantasies. Okay, Safa, get it started. What inspired you to start engaging in community service or activism rooted in your faith? And was there a defining moment or influence that motivated you to start doing that?
It goes back quite a few years, actually. So I am now 28 years old. I think that my call to activism actually came when I was maybe in like second grade, maybe even first grade, actually. And that was the first time I experienced someone comment on my religion. And at the time, I did not wear hijab. I was a tiny little kid. I liked pink. There was really nothing defining about me that would suggest that I was Muslim, other than the fact that I kept blabbing to people that I was Muslim, because in my head, I was like, this is something to be so proud of. And it is. But other people did not share that sentiment. So I think that was a very early wake-up call to me to be like, okay, there are some people, even like children, who have picked up this idea that to be Muslim is inherently this negative thing. It is a threatening thing. And this did stay with me throughout my life growing up in post 9/11 America. You're just kind of inundated, whether it's through media, rise of social media, or even in social settings. As I grew older, I started wearing the hijab and started, really getting to know more about what I believed in terms of like faith, but also in terms of like politics. Where do I stand on certain issues? A lot of that was very motivating to me to be like, okay, faith plays a huge role in the way I see the world. And this world is full of injustices, not only towards people like me, but towards other people who have this one arbitrary thing about them, whether they're born with that trait or whether it's something intangible like belief. That is a cause for someone else to write them off or subject them to hatred or even violence. And to me, that's always been something that I've been very, very passionate about, having, both the lived experience, but also the compassion that comes from that, I think has been a very strong motivator for me.
So as a young religious adult, I bet that there are like many unique challenges that you've faced while trying to integrate your faith with your work in activism. So what have some of those experiences been?
I am very blessed to be working for an Indian Muslim organization. That is like my background ethnically. I've been born and raised Muslim, and I've been in Muslim circles for most of my life. So it hasn't really been a challenge to integrate my advocacy work with what I believe, because by nature of what it is, Islam is very, very strong on implementing justice. Wherever you might see something that is wrong, Islam calls on you to kind of take a stand, to make a change, whether you step up physically to defend someone, whether you say something to defend someone, or at the very least hate it in your heart. There's levels to it, right? But it's always been something that I've carried through these different spaces. And now, fortunately, as I mentioned, I work for an Indian Muslim organization, and my work is very much centered around how do you take that identity and own it, be proud of it publicly. That is a challenge because Muslim is a politicized identity. It is a racialized identity. And it's something that often gets pushed to the margins in bigger conversations about, for example, like what's happening to Muslims in India. It becomes a very like political conversation. It becomes a conversation about, is faith detrimental to these people? Is the faith playing a role in why these people are being oppressed? And these are the types of narratives I like really work to push back against, because faith has nothing to do with why people are oppressed. That has everything to do with the mind of the oppressor and why they choose to look down on certain people. So I'd say the challenge lies more in fighting those narratives, to say that faith does play a very big role in advocacy. Faith is a revolutionary force. Faith is a driving force for many people. Faith that can play a massive role in pushing for justice all over the world. Yeah, those are the kinds of narratives I work on promoting.
So what kind of advice do you give, or what was your experience getting to that point of being comfortable with your faith and then showing that to the world?
There was a time when I was extremely proud of it, which was when I was a child and I had no concept of what anti-Muslim bigotry was. And then for some time I like kind of withdrew. I was like, okay, I don't think I can tell my friends that my dad goes to a mosque. What is the closest alternative? Oh, it's a church. My dad goes to church. And that's an obvious lie, but it's like the only way I can portray my family's connection to their faith in a way that doesn't offend people. So the challenge was more so internal. It's okay, I have this identity. I am visibly Muslim. I am a brown Muslim. How do I own that in a way that feels empowering to me first and foremost? And then from there, what can I do with this perspective that I have? Because I do believe that it is a unique perspective. It is a very interesting perspective, and it's one that's not shared very often in mainstream platforms. And so that was something that I really tried to own and grow into, and be like, okay, representation, of course, is important, but what kind of representation would have really helped me when I was younger? And I've tried to embody that as I've grown older.
That's amazing. How can young people like yourself use faith as a bridge to connect with others from different backgrounds and beliefs?
I feel like in today's world, if you're not hyper focused on the differences between faiths, I really do feel like, in my experience, people of faith are just kind of naturally drawn towards each other. There is this one security guard at my local library. I mean, I have a head covering on. So he did come up to me and ask me, like, oh, are you Christian? And no, I'm not. But, he'll always say, God bless you to me. He's, this person who really embodies these beautiful Christian values. And I can see that in the way he interacts with me. And because of that, we're able to form this connection. I have had the privilege of making many Hindu friends in my advocacy. There are a lot of stories that I could share about them, because I think a lot of times Hinduism and Islam are portrayed as these these polar opposites in terms of faith, but a lot of the underlying values are very similar. I have had Hindu friends help me find places to pray in public. I have had people come to my defense. I have had them make jokes with me. I've had them there to vent with me. And so I think these bridges are built by just having this perception of faith as something that inherently bridges divides, right? Something at its core is meant to unite people rather than to drive them apart.
That's so beautiful. I feel like we all need to appreciate our differences as much as we can appreciate our similarities. And at the end of the day, we're all trying to believe in something. And so I love how you phrase that we need to cherish that. Now, focusing more on what you do on a job basis, are there any particular causes or issues that resonate most deeply with you because of your faith? And how do you approach those issues?
My entire life's work till now has been focused on uplifting the cause of Muslims in India. A lot of people don't know that India actually has a massive Muslim population. We do only make up 14% of India's total population, but if you look at that numbers wise, it is over 200 million people who are currently at risk of genocide, who are having their rights stripped away systemically, who are having their places of worship attacked, who are being told you can't pray in public or even in private. There is a crisis of mob lynchings in India for people who are accused of being in interfaith relationships, particularly with Hindu women. And this is, of course, in complete opposition to what India has been for centuries and centuries and centuries. Like, India has a beautiful, complex, rich history of coexistence between different faiths. And it's become, unfortunately, an extremely dangerous environment for not just Muslims, but Christians, Hindus who are Dalits or formerly known as untouchables. It has overall become a place where it is very difficult to exist in any form as a minority without coming under some sort of attack. And so that has been for me, like, not just because I am an Indian Muslim, not just because I've seen how beautiful it is when Hindus, Muslims, Sikhs, Dalits are all coexisting, because that's what it looks like in my workspaces. So my job right now is to raise awareness about that and to direct people to learn more about the situation and also to listen to the voices on the ground who are experiencing this in real time.
So it sounds like you deal with like challenges and misunderstanding all the time. So how do you stay motivated and grounded in your faith when facing setbacks or challenges in your efforts to create change?
I think that there are a lot of faiths that say that this life is meant to be something difficult, it is meant to be a challenge, but the goal of being a person of faith in a world that is so often struggling is to be the best reflection of the light of God, basically. And so I try to find motivation in that. In Muslim theology, we have the saying that nothing hurts a believer, not even the prick of a thorn, because you know that there's a reward for it. You know that for every step you've taken in the right direction, you know that for every little word you've said in support of someone else, you know that for every object, even a pebble that you removed from the roadside that might make someone's way easier, all of that is rewarded. And on top of that, Islam really emphasizes that part of being a good person of faith is in how you treat other people. So with regards to, people who are suffering some sort of discrimination or oppression, how do you make sure that you're not contributing to that? How do you make sure that your first step forward is one with kindness? How do you make sure that the words that you speak are aimed at helping, not hurting? And these are really little things, right? Like, these are the lessons people learn in Sunday school. It's like very, very basic stuff. But I feel like so much conflict is predicated on these like very small things, right? The failure to listen and the failure to speak kindly and the failure to try and understand each other. All of this, I think, is a huge part of faith, and that's what keeps me motivated. I try to be just like a little speck of light in the world. Like, even though the darkness feels very extreme at times, to be able to have even one person say, oh, you made it a little easier along the way, I think that's what keeps me the most motivated.
That's so cool that you have, that purpose, that sense of drive, and you're helping other people achieve that peace, that inner peace that we're all kind of looking for. So you work for IMC. Can you explain a little bit to the listeners what that is and how you guys are working as an intersection for religious freedom, civil rights, and social justice?
So the Indian American Muslim Council is a 20-plus-year-old organization. We were actually founded in the aftermath of a very horrific and tragic incident in India called the Gujarat pogrom, in which actually the current Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi, was Chief Minister of the state at the time, and he essentially gave the green light for Hindu militant mobs to just wantonly slaughter Muslim women, children, men. And so the IMC was founded as a way to be a voice for Indian Muslims, but also to be a voice for ourselves, because there's a lot of unfortunate division within the Indian American diaspora due to far-right elements. And so our organization has emerged from that challenge as the largest and oldest diaspora organization of Indian Muslims focused on combating Hindu nationalism. And of course, we are very proud to work with a very diverse coalition, as I've mentioned, with other Hindus, my friends at HFHR, shout out to them, but also folks from the Sikh community, the Dalit community, the Indian Christian community. Most of the diaspora can be united across faith lines because at our heart, we do share the same love for India, which is the motherland to many. And at its heart, we also do believe that the diaspora has the spirit of being one, the spirit of communal harmony, the spirit of like multiculturalism that India is predicated upon. And we've carried that forward for decades and decades.
What are some specific challenges that Indian American Muslim youth face today, and how does IMC support them embracing their faith and identity?
So I think one main challenge is that it is very hard to find information about who Indian Muslims are. And the fact that Indian Muslim achievement and contribution has been so belittled in modern conversations, really now if you Google who are Indian Muslims, all you'll see are stories of suffering. And that is very demotivating to a lot of people. That kind of puts people in the mindset of, okay, how do I claim pride in an identity that has just been reduced to victimhood or is portrayed as somehow backward and somehow violent and dangerous? And one of the things that IMC exists to do is to be like, we have so much to be proud of. There is centuries upon centuries of history, of art, of architecture, of music, of linguistics, of poetry, of food, of clothing, fashion, cinema. All these different iconic pieces of Indian culture have been contributed in some way by Muslims, by minorities in India. And to highlight that is one of our main goals, to show people that there is a lot to take ownership of and a lot to gain strength from.
I think it's so beautiful when a group of community or a religious group or just anyone has that sense of pride, you know, because there's so many beautiful things that so many people within our different communities are doing. And so, as you said, you know, there's so many good Bollywood movies that I've seen on like buses in between places across the world. I'm like, this movie's kind of fire. And people may not know that. I like what you're talking about because IMC seems to be doing some beautiful things across the world. So do you have a story that you can share with us for a moment from your work with IMC that deeply moved you or reinforced your commitment to faith-driven activism?
So there are a lot of Muslim conferences that happen. Just like from the time I was a kid, I used to love to go to them. One of the conferences I grew up attending was the one hosted annually by the Islamic Circle of North America, or ICNA. And these conferences are massive. And through my work at IMC, I very randomly, one of our contacts in the Bay Area told me, we're hosting an ICNA West Coast. Would you like to speak? And that was my first time being on the other end, not in the audience, but like on a stage with some of the people I had grown up listening to as Islamic speakers, as these icons, these activists. And I just talked about the Indian Muslim cause. But then when I was done, this reminds me of what I would do when I was a kid. There was like a line of people, young women like me, who wanted to tell me it meant so much to me to see you on that stage. I was like, oh my God, like this feels like a full circle moment. It's not just one cause that I'm advocating for. It's also this moment of inspiration. It's also this moment where I hope that some other young women, young men saw something, saw a little bit of themselves in me, and are able to take their own strength from that and hopefully take my place on those stages, because I think there is so much passion among young Muslim Americans. There's so much drive, there's so much pride. to know that, or to hope that even one person took inspiration from a 5-minute talk of mine. That meant the world to me.
Being on like the other side of something that you had attended for so long, is there anything that like you learned differently that you didn't think you would get out of that experience?
I didn't realize that the teleprompter was so big. There's like a huge timer on the stage. I saw my co-panelists ignore it. I was like, whoa, guys, like it's beeping, it's buzzing, like it's flashing red. So when I got up there, I was like, this is how they know how much time they have left. And so I was like blazing through my talk. I was like, it's not going to turn red on me. So that was one thing I came away with. But on a more serious note, I did kind of feel the weight of having that many eyes on you. And it is a moment of huge responsibility where you're like, okay, I have 5 minutes to say what I need to say. I have 5 minutes to hope that my message leaves a mark on these people, and 5 minutes to convince them that my cause is worth taking up, and it's worth them going home and then Googling what is IMC, Googling who are Indian Muslims and what can I do to help them. So certainly a lot of pressure, but thankfully I had a very kind audience who seemed fairly motivated afterwards.
And I'm sure it wasn't easy. I'm sure you had that pressure, like you said, but I feel like a lot of moments like that where we have to present and we're like the face of something. Even for this podcast, I'm like, shoot, we have to represent BYU's, our university's thing, and sometimes it's stressful. But at the end of the day, people do see what we're doing. What is like advice to young listeners who should take that leap of their faith?
The advice that was given to me many times while growing up is that your faith is something that is deeply personal to you, but it also should shape how you interact with the world. There's a very beautiful saying that someone who has knowledge of their faith should become like a tree bearing a lot of fruit, but its branches are very close to the ground. And I'm paraphrasing, but to me, that represents how someone with faith guiding them, faith that inspires them, should also be a person who people come to for that feeling of inspiration, for that feeling of there is good in this world. To be like a fruit tree that never stops giving, to be a place where people come to for a bit of shade in a very difficult world, to be someone who gives a little bit of sweetness in times that are very bitter often. And I think that it's not necessary for everyone to be a revolutionary. It's not necessary for everyone to be an activist or a speaker or even a very learned individual. I think that sometimes these interactions can be as simple as wearing your symbols of faith very proudly, showing that you embody what you believe in ways that touch people's hearts rather than driving them away, and achieving that fundamental goal of faith, which is to bridge divides, not drive people apart.
Thank you for listening. If you liked this episode, take a leap and share it with your friends and family. And follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at Take a Leap Pod. Take a Leap is a production of BYU Radio. I'm Ocean Marshall, and our production team includes James Sturdivant, Aaliyah Alexander, Heidi Hansen, and Naftali Rodriguez.